Look down at your hands. One of them is your dominant hand, and that single detail already makes you rarer than you think. But it's nothing compared to what's coming. Because right now, hidden somewhere among 8 billion people, there is one human being so rare that the odds of them existing are smaller than the number of stars in the entire universe. Not a fantasy. A real, possible person built from real traits, real conditions, real biology. We're going to build that person together, one trait at a time. And I'll warn you now, by the end, the final number is going to be so large, it barely feels real. Let's start with something you already have. Every person begins somewhere, and where you come from is the first thing that makes you rare or ordinary. There are roughly 7,000 distinct ethnic groups on Earth. But here's the catch. Most of humanity is packed into just a handful of enormous ones. Han Chinese alone make up about 18% of everyone alive, more than 1.4 billion people from a single group. That's the ordinary end of the scale. Now look at the other end. The Sentinelese of the Andaman Islands are estimated at somewhere between 50 and 400 people. The Kawahiva of the Brazilian Amazon may number fewer than 30. Tiny, isolated populations that most of the world will never meet. So, for our rarest person, we don't start them in the crowd. We start them in one of these vanishing groups. Let's use a conservative population of 500 people out of 8 billion. That's 500 divided by 8 billion, a 1 in 16 million chance right out of the gate. And we haven't even given them a single physical trait yet. Keep that number in your head. It's about to get much, much stranger. Now let's look at their skin. We'll give this person albinism, a genetic condition caused by mutations in the genes responsible for producing melanin. Melanin is the pigment that colors your skin, your hair, and your eyes. In a person with complete albinism, that production is either severely reduced or almost entirely switched off. The result is striking: white or near white skin, pale silver hair, and eyes that can appear light blue, gray, or even faintly pink, depending on how light passes through the iris. Globally, albinism shows up in roughly 1 in 20,000 people. On its own, that's already rare. But we're not stacking traits one at a time and forgetting the last one we're multiplying. Combine a 500-person ethnic group with albinism, and the odds of this exact person existing just jump to about 1 in 320 billion. That's already more than the number of people who have ever lived. And we're only 2 traits in. Let's talk about their eyes, because we can go rarer than just color. Green is the rarest common eye color, found in only about 1 in 50 people. Beautiful, but not rare enough for us. So instead, we give this person complete heterochromia, 2 completely different colored eyes. 1 blue, 1 brown, for example. This happens when melanin is distributed unevenly between the 2 irises. It's usually present from birth, it's almost always harmless, and it doesn't affect vision at all. It just happens. A quiet quirk of development. The odds? Roughly 1 in 1,600 people. Layer that on top of everything else, and the number keeps climbing into territory that's getting hard to picture. But here's where it gets interesting, because so far, every trait has been something you can see. The next ones, you'd never know just by looking. Remember when I told you to look at your hands at the very start? Here's why. Let's make our person left-handed. It sounds simple, but handedness is stranger than most people realize. It's partly genetic, but no single gene controls it. In fact, even identical twins who share nearly all of their DNA have different dominant hands about 20% of the time. It's tied to how the brain is organized. Most right-handed people process language mainly in the left hemisphere. Left-handed people often spread that workload more evenly across both, and in many cultures. Kids are quietly pushed to use their right hand, which means natural lefties are probably undercounted. Still, a conservative estimate puts left-handedness at about 1 in 10 people. Now let's put it all together. Ethnicity, albinism, heterochromia, and handedness. Stack those 4, and the odds of this person existing are now around 1 in 5 quadrillion. Say that number out loud. 5 quadrillion. And we're not even halfway done. Here's a trait most people have never even heard of, and it might be the most beautiful one on this list. Most humans see color using 3 types of cone cells in the eye, tuned to blue, green, and red light. Your brain blends the signals from those 3 cones to build roughly 1 million distinguishable colors. That's normal vision. That's probably you. But some people have a fourth cone. They're called tetrachromats, and that extra cone is sensitive to wavelengths sitting between red and green. In theory, it lets them distinguish up to 100 million colors, a version of reality with shades the rest of us physically cannot see. It's almost exclusively found in women, because the relevant genes sit on the X chromosome. A woman can inherit one standard version and one mutated version, potentially building that fourth cone type. Men usually can't. And while a decent number of women carry the genetic potential, only a tiny fraction ever develop true functional tetrachromacy. Researchers estimate it at somewhere around 1 in 80,000 people overall. So now our person doesn't just look unlike anyone else. They see a world the rest of us will never witness. And there's still one trait left, the rarest of them all. Our final trait lives inside the mind. And it's so rare that you can almost count the confirmed cases in the world by hand. It's called hyperthymesia, highly superior autobiographical memory. People with it can recall nearly every single day of their lives in extraordinary detail. Not just the big moments, weddings, tragedies, birthdays, but ordinary days. A random lunch from 15 years ago. A conversation from a Tuesday afternoon that everyone else forgot the moment it ended. The condition was first formally identified in 2006 after a woman named Jill Price described being unable to stop remembering. She compared it to a non-stop, involuntary replay of her entire life every day, always running in the background. Fewer than 100 confirmed cases have ever been documented worldwide. Even generous estimates, including people who may have it but were never diagnosed, land at only a few hundred globally. Conservatively, that's about 1 in 16 million people. So we give our rarest human a perfect, unbroken memory of their own life. And now let's add everything up. Let's recap who we just built. A person from an ethnic group of only 500, with albinism, with 2 differently colored eyes, left-handed, able to see 100 million colors, and able to remember nearly every day they've ever lived. Multiply every one of those probabilities together, and the odds of a single person having all of them at once come out to roughly 1 in 6.8 septillion. Let that number sit for a second, because it's almost impossible to hold in your head. So let's make it real. The number of stars in the entire observable universe is, at most, around 1 septillion. Our person is nearly 7 times rarer than that. If you tried to represent those odds using every grain of sand on Earth, you wouldn't have enough. You'd need roughly 900,000 more planets exactly like ours just to count that high. That is how rare this person is. A single human being, theoretically possible, statistically almost unthinkable. But here's the part nobody expects. We stopped at 6 traits. 6, we could have kept going. We didn't touch rare blood types like Rh null, carried by fewer than 50 people on the entire planet. We didn't add unusual body variations, rare neurological gifts, 1 in a million physical conditions. There are hundreds more we could have stacked on top, each one multiplying the odds further into the impossible. Which means the rarest possible person isn't really a fixed number at all. It's a moving target that keeps climbing the deeper you look. And now for the strange, quiet truth underneath all of this. You did the same thing. So did I. Every single person watching this right now is the result of a genetic lottery so improbable that the odds of you, your exact combination of traits, your exact DNA, born at your exact moment, are already sitting somewhere in the impossible numbers we've been throwing around this whole video. You beat odds you'll never fully be able to picture just by existing. Every person you passed today did too. So no, you might not have albinism, or a fourth cone, or a perfect memory. But make no mistake. The rarest possible person isn't some hypothetical we built in a video. You're already one of a kind. You always were.